So, are you known as that parent around school? And if so, what does being that parent mean to you? And do you think the school staff might have a different definition of that parent than you do? So, welcome to our weekly Facebook Live group. I am Charmaine Tanner, and I am a parent, a retired teacher, an author of a #1 best-selling Amazon book, and I do full-time advocacy for families. And one of the things that I hear often is from school staff because remember, I was that retired teacher. Um, the conversation that can happen in school lounges, and now that some of us aren't back in the school building, my guess is through email and other ways, people may still be talking about you as being that parent. And what I would like to do today is I would like us to, as parents, reclaim that label. And to me, the interpretation of that label is that we are willing to speak up for our children. And we know when we speak up for our children, we're modeling those advocacy skills for our kids so they can grow into that self-advocacy role. And to me, that's like one of the most important things that we can do for our kids as that parent. Because our kids need to, even at a young age, start taking over that self-advocacy role. So if you are here with us live, say hi. If you are watching the rerun or the replay, say hi. Give us your thoughts about what it means to you to be that parent. And do you see this as something positive? Hey, Anne-Marie, how are you doing? So, Anne-Marie, what do you think? I mean, like if you for yourself, because I think that parent can, have many meanings, right? So, Anne-Marie and others who are here, what do you see as that definition of that parent? Hey, Kristen, she's from Ohio. So, besides I think looking at the skills that we have as advocates when we advocate for our children, the other thing that I think is so important to keep in mind is that when you are being that parent, that is a positive thing. It doesn't have to be something that teachers roll their eyes at when they see you signing into the Zoom meeting or walking down the hall. The reality is, hey, Lissa's from Idaho. And Roseanne, thanks. Let's see. She says, being that parent means speaking up and showing that maybe they haven't considered all the implications of decisions. Yeah, so good, Roxanne. I always want to say Roxanne. Sorry, Roseanne. Yeah, I think that's probably one of the common things when we look at being that parent is having the courage, having, sometimes extra knowledge helps, right? But being able to speak up. And sometimes speaking up means asking more questions, right? Hey, Michelle. Michelle's here from Nebraska. So I think, when we look about when we look at speaking up, sometimes we can see that as one, we're going to be able to share information, share research, share ideas that we have. And the other part about speaking up is listening up. I just made that up. But asking more questions and really listening, because that I think helps us then really get to some of those underlying reasons why people feel the way they do, or why people are kind of stuck in this position that they are. So I hope that we can, like I said, reclaim that, so-called label of being that parent and claim that as something positive. I mean, it's something that we kind of laugh about, and it can be kind of fun, and we can have those images of maybe mama bears, right? But there are ways that we can certainly use those advocacy skills as something really positive. And one of the things that I had recently put up on Facebook on my Visions and Voices Together page was to talk about one of the things that you want to ask for is not only what a policy has, as far as what the language is in the policy, but also the rules and regulations that go along with that policy. So when you're that parent, sometimes that means you're doing some extra research. And I think so many of us have heard that, when we, the district or the school team says something, that we say, show me the policy, show me where it says that. And sometimes there is no policy they're referring to, so that's always interesting. Or other times they send you a copy of the policy, but guess what? That's kind of like this level. You really need to dig down into the nitty-gritty details and need to see that corresponding document that has the rules and regulations for the policy. I'm spilling my water. So, and I think a lot of times this can happen with school board policy. And you might be at an IEP or ARD meeting and somebody says, oh, no, that's against district policy. We can't do that. And most parents are going to be like, well, I don't know. The staff said they can't do it. They can't do it. So we got to figure something else out. My guess is if you're with us live today, you're thinking about, well, let's see, I would really, and one of the phrases I guess I use often or share with parents to use is say, I'm trying to understand this better. Can you, it would really help if I could get a written policy plus the rules and regulations that go with the policy, and then that would help me understand it better. And so you're not being like direct, so aggressive, like, are you kidding me? There's no way that's written in policy. You show me that policy right now. That just gets more of that adversarial tone, which really in most situations doesn't help us. But instead to say, I'm kind of confused. I'm not sure about this. Can you show me the written policy? Can you show me also the rules and regs that go with that, so I really understand it? And so you are taking the ownership that you want to learn more, that you're really trying to figure this out, and you need the district's help to supply that information to you. And then I guess as a teacher, I would say that there are, board policy books in every school building, so it should be easy for somebody to get their hands on. In this day of electronic information, right, you can usually go to the district website and find information there too. So use your kind of detective strategies to also not only look for a policy, but to look for the regulations that say how is that policy going to be enacted. So let's see. Anne Marie says, I'm that parent getting inclusion, otherwise wouldn't even be a consideration. 80% inclusion versus self-contained. Yeah, exactly. And Corey says, yes, she's that parent too. And that's the thing. I mean, unless we are there to, share our voice, but also our children's voice if they're not at the actual meeting. And if you aren't there speaking up for inclusion, if that's something that really believe in for your child, a lot of times that's not going to happen at all unless you are, where's my name tag? That parent, right? And so maybe share some strategies or techniques that you've used, Anne Marie and Corey and others here. What have been helpful advocacy strategies that you've used? And type those in the comments because that would be helpful. Deborah says, as a teacher, I always loved that parent because I knew we had the common ground of helping their child succeed. Yes, I totally agree with you, Deborah. I was a special ed teacher for 15 years and then a classroom teacher for 15 years. And yeah, I mean, it's like when you can have, let me bring that up in a minute, when you can have that support, those allies within the school building, I mean, that makes a huge difference, right? And so that's another, tip I think for parents is to kind of do this ecological map of finding your allies either in the school building and or district wide. Sometimes there's a district consulting teacher or somebody like that, and they can be a great ally, and they're kind of that go between district decisions and building decisions. So look at how things are organized in your district and who really has the power to make those decisions, because that makes it really important. Anne Marie says, unfortunately, we're fighting to get what IDEA says every child should be getting. I know, and that's the frustrating part, right? I mean, IDEA is over, 40 years old as far as, legislation, and we are still, it seems to be educating a lot of people on not only what's, written in the law, but also the spirit of the law. And that can be really frustrating, right? So let me go. I love all you guys' comments. Let me go back up here. Yeah, knowing the laws to support your requests are helpful. Yeah, for sure. And so, Jessica, are you in Pennsylvania? I'm trying to remember. Understanding your NOPS and as much about IDEA as possible helps. And so that's the thing I was asking what state you're in, because different states have different acronyms. So Jessica is well, see, Pennsylvania calls, I don't know if that's what Pennsylvania calls it, prior written notice, which is what maybe others, people might know it by. But yeah, you need to know what is supposed to be in your prior written notice and make sure all those components are really touched on when you get that written notice after your meeting. So that's, really crucial. Corey says that she loves sharing the book's inclusion principles guide. So Julie Costin has a whole series of books, and here, I've got one of hers. And actually, this is the first edition of the paraprofessional book, but if you look on Amazon under Julie Costin. She has a whole series of these inclusion guides. One's for the principal, for the special ed teacher, the general ed teacher, the speech language pathologist, the OT. And so I know different parents sometimes have asked the school to order copies of this that, that the teachers can use. If the teachers in your building have like a book club or some kind of professional development activity work that they do on a regular basis, you can suggest, here's some great books that you might want to check out. And let me see. Yes. Don't be discouraged to ask for help. So thanks for that tip, Jessica. Yes. And, sometimes it's help from another parent that close by. It can be help from your parent training and information center. Every state has at least one of those that's federally funded to help provide training and information to parents. So your PTI is a wonderful resource. You also can go online and find advocates. So if you go to Rights Law, the Rights Law page, they have a tab for the yellow pages, and you can find attorneys, advocates, other people in your area. Or you can also go to the COPA website, which is Council of Parent Attorneys and Advocates, and they have a directory of people that can help you. But sometimes it's just your best friend or your partner that can be helpful and encouraging, because it can be really draining emotionally. So to have somebody there to be supportive of you, not only at the meeting, but like in between meetings, to help you like stay focused and keep moving forward, that best friend can be a wonderful help. Deborah says, as that parent, I realized just how stressed and overwhelmed and understaffed many teachers are. They often are caught between their ideals, serving children appropriately, and administrative pressures to put the budget or district policies first. I love the way you're expressing the win-win kind of way to be firm, but mindful that they are overworked and underpaid. Partnership goes a long way. Yeah, and especially this year, right, Deborah? It's like been, such a great upheaval of change for our kids and their school routine, for us as parents, and the teachers. They're trying to figure all of this out while they're actually teaching, right? It's like they don't have much time to prepare. So we do need to give people grace and to understand, like, this is like a really challenging time. And I'll say that at IEP meetings, and then I follow it with, and for parents, this is important for us to make sure, even if we're in a hybrid learning situation, that my child is still getting what they need. And just bring it back to this is what we need to be focused on. The other thing I'm surprised that I still hear, and I think I was listening to another friend talk, and they were talking about how COVID now can be kind of the district's go-to excuse. Well, with COVID, we can't do that. Well, no, because of COVID, no, we can't do that. And there are creative ways we can problem solve. And instead of taking that no as no, it's a good idea if we take no's as not yet. So if they say no, we can't have any kind of a social skill friendship group or whatever because of COVID, it's like, well, not yet. We haven't figured it out yet. Let's think. Now, what if? And then you kind of start bringing up some ideas. You start planting some seeds. You want to pause and get some feedback from the other people. But we, it's like, I know it's hard. And I also know this is what my child needs. And yeah, you know, like I said, give people grace, but still have expectations that your child's going to be learning and what support and services they're getting during this, different time of education is still appropriate for them. That's really the bottom line. So keep your comments coming. Hey Liz, I don't know why I sometimes get lost where I am on this screen. Okay. When my child started first grade, I made a resume for him of inclusion, camp swimming lessons, his preschool, etc., etc. My proof and data that inclusion works for my child. Yes, 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 yes. Isn't that cool? And I just, I think it's so important. And I know some people call it like an about me page or a student profile. But yeah, those little bits of information that are really important for others to know about our kiddos, like what they love to do, what their interests are, what they're good at doing. All of that, sets that tone, like we're going to look at positives. And you also can include challenges, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I love, Liz, the idea of look where he's already been in school, from preschool, or look what, community activities like maybe scouts or a church group, they're already involved in that. And then, like you said, that's your parent input for data as far as inclusion can work. I know when Dylan was little, one of the things that struck me is when he started going to catechism classes, and he was just, in his age group for the kids. And there was nobody saying, oh, we can't do this unless we have a paraeducator. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Dylan, you can't do this. Like they figured it out, right? And so that's what we want, is we want people that are open-minded and willing to figure it out. And so the tip of the day is when you hear no, translate that to not yet, my dear. Lissa, she said, I always felt eventually when I stepped outside of the norm and asked questions, I did become that parent. And at first, I usually started out with teachers or principal, etc., being supportive. But when once or twice becomes 6 to 7 and some very difficult questions for them, I eventually lost the support and I became that parent who got the very distinction of eye rolling when I came in the room. Do you have suggestions for other parents to avoid that? So that would be cool if you guys have, and I don't know, Lissa, like, I guess part of me is like, I don't know if you want to avoid that, right? I mean, because to me, like I said, when you become that parent, even if it's that parent that the staff rolls their eyes at, when you're walking down the hall, I don't know. I think being that parent is doing your job. And, I think it really is helpful that at first you have the opportunity, Lissa, to build those relationships, because that's going to help you through the tough times. But yeah, eventually those tough meetings are going to be there, and there's going to be disagreements, and there's going to be sometimes some like major issues that are like really life critical for your child. And when, your good friends over here, the teachers and the staff, are saying, no, we don't think that's what your child needs, we think it's this, and you disagree, and you're like, I got to kind of ramp up my role here as that parent, or else my kid is going to really lose out. Um, and so sometimes being that parent is being cordial and nice. I mean, that parent doesn't mean you're always in this heated adversarial role. I think it's important that you're also building those relationships. And if you've been to many of my shows, you know I say the 3 R's of advocacy are relationships, relationships, relationships. So, as many chances as you get to make those positive relationships, build on those opportunities. Hey, Tina, she said that she's an advocate in West Virginia. So, what do you see in West Virginia? Is it different? I probably would say it probably isn't, right? But how do you see things from your advocacy perspective, Tina, about how things work in your area as far as relationships between parents and staff, and what happens when a parent has to become more assertive and how that's kind of seen? Hey, Dan. He says he loves the idea of the resume. Also important to remember that the burden of proof is on the district. Yeah, they have to improve or be able to say why inclusion can't work, rather than the parents have to prove that inclusion will work. And that is such a wonderful point, Dan. So thanks for bringing that up. Dan is an advocate in Illinois. And I think it's really easy. I mean, it's still easy for me to get caught up in that. I have to come in prepared to be able to show, yes, that my child can be successful and be included. And I think it's important that we have that research, that we have that evidence with us, but maybe to remember at the beginning of the meeting that it's really going to, that burden of proof really is on the district. Because if you look at, IDEA, it talks about students being in their, school that's closest to their home, so their neighborhood school, that, supports services are portable. They can be brought to the general ed classroom. You can do push-in services. You can do lots of things, right, to support a child in general ed. And for the district to say, no, your child can't be included without trying any of those things is not what's supposed to happen. And so if it's an initial meeting where your child is just starting to get services, or if it's an annual meeting, or, every 3 years when you're sitting down to meet, know that the district has to be able to say, we have tried these things and this has been the result. These are the things that have worked. Maybe these are the things that haven't worked so well. But even then, that doesn't mean, okay, now we can shuffle off this kid down the hall to the special ed room. We're still looking at how we can reform and, figure out where your child's successful, how we can replicate that in the general ed room, all of those things. So it's really an ongoing process. We can't just say, we tried it for 2 weeks and it didn't work. And I love Paula Kluth. What she says is, when she hears staff say, we tried that, it didn't work. And so she asks them to define, like, what do you mean by it? Like, what was it? And they'll say, oh, we tried inclusion, it didn't work. And then it's like, okay, so what did inclusion look like? Because we know, right? I mean, there's millions of definitions of what inclusive education can look like, depending on your perspective. And so, yeah, but with the parent there, it's really important that you also are prepared. But again, you can always kind of put the ball back in the district and say, this is the starting point, general education in our neighborhood school. Now we have to figure out how that's going to look and what's going to happen and who we need for support and how we can use natural peers for support. And, so yeah, all of that conversation is, usually takes more than one meeting, right? um, yeah, Dan says another Paula Cluth gym is over, under, around, or through. Find a way or make the way. Yes. And I've been hearing that too with COVID. It's like, no, we can't do that. And it's like, just because we haven't ever done it before doesn't mean we can't do it. And we should not be telling parents and telling the rest of the staff as a principal or a special ed director, no, sorry, we can't do that. We've never done that. No, we don't know how to do that. It's like those are opportunities for learning. They're not a reason not to try something of, what's really important for the child. Hey, Trish. Trish is in Idaho too. She said, as we move from distance learning to brick and mortar, my daughter's school has been so hesitant for her return. They recognize that at home I teach, reteach, and review. They are worried they can't meet that level of education. Isn't that interesting? Let me grab a sip of water here. And we're going to be giving away one of these. Hello, my name is at Parent Mug today. So stay tuned because we'll be doing a drawing near the end. Yeah. And that's the thing. Sometimes there's like this unbalance of the parent really does know their child better on many levels. And now because parents have had to kind of be in that position of helping with COVID schooling at home, that now they also are knowing a lot about their academic skills, their learning preferences and all things like that. So even though it's February, it might be a great time to update that resume or that About Me profile that you've shared with the teachers and say, now during these past months, these are additional new things that I've learned about my child. And I know it's, I guess, Trish, like, you might be feeling like when you are considered that parent, I think sometimes staff can be intimidated when the parents have, either like a degree in education or counseling like you do, Trish, some kind of related field. And, it's sometimes can be awkward. Like, how do I share this information without being really obnoxious about it? And Trish is very nice. She's not obnoxious. And sometimes what I suggest for parents is that they find another teacher or principal or whatever in the district that's doing, what you're asking for, like inclusive education. And see if the teacher could go observe the other teacher in the classroom. The principals can get together and talk and share, like, how did you get this started? What did you have to do? But if they can get some advice or tips from other colleagues in your school building or in the district or in the state or whatever, sometimes that's one way that you can help kind of, educate people, is working through others. So if you know that there's somebody else in the district that is doing a great job at their building for inclusive ed, you might be able to contact that teacher and say, I would love if you would, introduce yourself to my son's teacher. She's wondering how to do this. And you can maybe facilitate them getting together. But if the information comes from a colleague versus a parent, sometimes they're more willing to accept that, right? And Tina says, I try to tell all my parents, remember that school personnel are people too. The more calm a parent can be, the better relationship they will have with the school. The better the relationship, the more the school will take their concerns seriously. Yes, and Tina advocates in West Virginia. Yeah, I mean, I think that goes along right with the 3 R's of advocacy, right? So that's perfect. Thank you, Tina. I'm sure parents love getting your advice and help. And Angela says, I feel like it has been determined this year, at least, in all my groups, that most kids still seem to learn better and more at home with a parent, but I still like school for all other social emotional skills. I like it because it gives our kids a sense of community and belonging, even if academics, aren't so wonderful, maybe, right? Um, yeah. So how many of you feel that way, that you are, if you're able to be home with your kids and not, having to also do your work, do you feel like your kids have been learning more at home, um, and covering more information at a kind of a faster speed? I know some parents that have chosen to like go full blown to homeschooling their kids and have withdrawn their kids from school. And they're amazed, instead of taking 7 hours to get through a day's worth of learning and engagement, that they're able to do it in short amount of time. And then what I love is then kids, it's almost kind of like you have to do these to do things, and then I can get to what I want to really do. So if your kids have those passion projects, they're like enthralled with electrical engineering and they just want some time with wires and metal and soldering and whatever else. I don't know. That's probably not really electrical engineering. Or, an art project that they want to just have a block of time to get into. But yeah, so it's interesting. But like I said, I'm hoping that there's that communication back and forth between school and home of these are all the things we learned from COVID. Like if we make sure that he has a snack before math, it's like math is so much easier. If we let her have the cat on her lap and she's petting the cat, that makes life so much easier. But to share things back and forth and what the teachers have noticed, so we can each be going, okay, this is something something new and something that we can build on. Let's see. Trisha, I still maintain the responsibility to educate my student as a partnership. They were worried that her progress would drop off, assuming I would drop the ball at home. Oh, okay. Thanks for that clarification, Trish. Yeah, it's a journey. Hey, Kelly, she said, my daughter has maybe been getting 3 to 10 minutes a day of academics in school because she wouldn't sit still. We are 100% remote, and she sits through her whole day with me and is learning so much this year. So isn't that pretty amazing? And so if you can pick, Kelly, what do you think the differences are? What do you think those factors, those variables are that make such a huge difference in what she's doing at home with you versus what was going on at school? And so there's a million things that are different, right? But like, what do you think are the big main differences that's making learning at home so much more beneficial for her? That'd be interesting. And Trish says, all 3 of my kids have made leaps and bounds with home learning. I will keep my autistic home for as long as it's feasible. He's doing grade level work for the first time ever. So, yay. That is so wonderful. And yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that the schools are probably going to continue having virtual learning as a choice. Most school districts have set up, like a virtual, school site. If parents want to just keep their kids at like 100% remote. And like I said, some people are choosing homeschooling. It just depends. But yeah, I think even, in the fall when maybe everything is calmed down and people can return to school buildings, my guess is there's still going to be a percentage of parents that would have like that option of, no, let's just keep going with remote learning. Yeah, it makes a huge difference, right? Um, and Marie says Amanda started in person in January because of the social interaction. I have programs that I do outside of school because I'm expecting the learning to be done at a different pace. Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think for all of us that, decrease of social interaction where, for even people that are more on the introverted side of things, after months and months, it's like, okay, this is kind of getting to me. um, and yeah, so always being able to figure out that social side. And yeah, you can have, kids get together on Zoom or video calls or something like that if they need to still be distant. But as we know, it's not the same thing as being with, people in person. And so trying to figure out that balance and how we can give that to our kids too, right? Um, Kelly says her school did not get to know her. Fourth school in 4 years. They really didn't know how to engage her and would just do a waited out method to wait for her to go back to her seat. She was 6 at the time. She will make them wait all day, which she did. So yeah, when we were saying like, what's the difference between, the home learning and the school? So yeah, when you know, not only have a new teacher every year, but then also a new school building and possibly a new district, then that does, put added kind of pressure on like, how are we going to make sure that the teachers get up to speed on who my kid is? And when we started in the fall, most of us were remote. And that was like really hard, right? Because the teachers didn't know any kids in their class really. And so for months, even if we're in hybrid now, we're starting to go back full time. My guess is it's going to be important for teachers to spend that time almost like you do every fall of getting to know each other, doing those icebreaker kinds of activities. Because yeah, without knowing your students as individual children, I think it's really challenging for teachers to be able to connect. And so hopefully as things go along, Kelly, you'll be able to share more things about with your, with the staff about your daughter, and, you will see kind of that difference pick up at school. We shall see, huh? Well, let me get another drink, and we're going to have a drawing for the mug. And I would just like to remind us that we want to use this name tag and for something positive, and we also want to reclaim it as a positive label. Because to me, that means that you're speaking out, you're speaking up for your child, you're modeling for your child how to be an effective advocate so they can start taking more of that role as a self-advocate. You're doing research, you're reading your state special ed manuals, you're collaborating and sharing information with the staff, you're supporting and celebrating wins when they happen at school. And you have, kind of that balance approach of, yes, I'm trying to understand your situation and your perspective. And yet, as a parent, you have to be out there on the front, or in the front of the line, making sure that your child is safe, happy at school, and also learning every day, right? Um, so I only have water in here. Maybe if it was later, I could have put something else in here. But here's to you for being that parent. So what I'm going to do, Jessica says, yes. She says, love the mug. Yeah, and I'll put in the comments later, if you don't win one, there's a place that you can buy them. All right, so the scientific way I draw names is I close my eyes, I scroll through the comments, pick one, and that's the lucky winner. So I'm going to scroll because we have had good comments, lots of comments today. So I'm scrolling up and back and forth, and I'm going to stop. And Trisha, there you are. Trisha, you win the mug. And let me tell you, this is a fitting mug for you, Trisha. So yes, so congratulations. She is our winner of the mug. And thank you all for being here. I do appreciate what you are doing. I understand as a parent, and remember those days. My son is an adult now, but we too had to become those parents. And most of the time it was positive relationships with staff. There were some times that were unpleasant because we did have disagreements. And I had to know that being on the side of the person, speaking up and speaking with my child was the number one role that I had as a parent. So anyway, we are good. Next week, come back. We will do our monthly Q&A. So that's a time where we just talk about what's on your mind. So we will be here next Thursday at noon Mountain Time. And until then, Tatum, let's see. Tatum says, not many places do we hear the value of being that parent. Thank you. Helps us see the positive in something that can feel isolating at times. Yes, and Tatum is just beginning this journey. So, yeah, it is a positive label. Just like Down syndrome is a positive label for Dylan, that parent is a positive label for me. So we will see you next week. Thanks, and keep on keeping on.